We'll wait another minute or two for those folks who are just coming through. Welcome. We're expecting a few more people to come through tonight. And as you just saw, we are recording this session, so it'll be available for you if you want to go and take another look at it, and also for all those students who didn't have the opportunity to join us today. We'll wait one more minute, and then we'll get underway. See the number of guests coming up a little bit more. And it's incredible. We've got people that are beaming in from all across the US, from a number of countries, India, Russia, China, Canada. We're so happy that you can join us here tonight. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome. And welcome to tonight's panel. This is a really, really great opportunity. We're calling this Life After Hamilton. It's our Young Alumni Careers panel. I've had the opportunity to meet many of you over the course of the last month, and I've really enjoyed the time that we've had to spend together, whether virtually or in person. But for those of you that I haven't met, my name is John McLaughlin. I'm the Dean of Admission here at Hamilton. And I'm so excited once again to welcome you to the class of 2027. Over the last couple of weeks, you've had the opportunity to envision yourself on campus. And tonight, we want to spend a little time talking about what comes after Hamilton. It's fitting that tonight is our last Hamilton Hangout, the last program of our Celebrate Thyself season. And we hope that over the course of the last couple of days and weeks, you've come to understand why Hamilton could be a great place for your present and for your future. I'm really pleased to see that we've got a lot of folks that are attending tonight who have already made the decision to attend Hamilton. Congrats, we can't wait to see you on the Hill. And then for those of you that are still considering your options, we hope that tonight's program gives you a sense of what you can expect at Hamilton and beyond. I'm going to be your MC for this evening, and I am lucky to be joined by three members of the Hamilton family, including, 4 members of the Hamilton family, including Melissa Marietta, our Director for Career Development, and 3 recent alumni, RJ Korba, Anji Riscalvo, and Jafar Sharapov. I have a few questions for the group, but I also want to call your attention to the Q&A feature where you can submit any questions that you have, and we want to hear from you. So please do use it, and we'll use those questions to pose to the guests. Also, closed captioning is available, and that's something that you can add at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We're going to begin with some basic introductions. And so for our wonderful panelists, I'm going to ask you to each introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do. For our alumni, if you could please share a little bit about yourself, including your hometown, your major, your current position and location, and anything else that you'd like to share. It'd be a great way to get us started. So Melissa, we're going to start with you.
Wonderful. Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. As John said, my name is Melissa Marietta. I'm the Director of Career Development in the Career Center. I'm a dedicated career advisor, and I also oversee all of the dedicated career advisors who are in the center. We regularly partner with admission, and one of our favorite things to do is to talk to students once they've made the decision that they want to come to Hamilton, but before they have started in the fall semester. So again, welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. And then we'll work our way through our alums. We'll go RJ, Anji, and Jafar.
Hi, everyone. My name is RJ. I am originally from Orfield, Pennsylvania. That's about an hour north of Philly. I majored in biochemistry and molecular biology at Hamilton, and I'm currently working at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City. I actually live in the city right now, too. And I played lacrosse at Hamilton. Among a bunch of other clubs. I did a lot of research at Hamilton, both elective and through my thesis. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have for now.
Awesome. Thanks, RJ. Anji.
Yes, so my name is Angie. I'm from the Bronx and I majored in Hispanic studies and minored in education. And some things I did at Hamilton was being on the executive board for La Vanguardia, which was the Latinx student organization on campus. I was also a student ambassador at the Days Masolo Center, which is the cultural center on campus. And I was a senior admissions fellow. And I also as well did some research with the Levitt Center. And currently I'm in Mexico, so I'm in my bedroom in Mexico actually. And I'm just currently an English teaching assistant with the Fulbright program, which is why I'm all the way here in Mexico. And that's pretty much it.
Amazing. Thanks. And Jafar.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Jafar. I'm from Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Tashkent. Yeah, actually first time of applying to Hamilton, I did not get in, got waitlisted, so really wanted to come back and reapplied, got in. And at Hamilton, I double majored in math and econ, and I also was a member of the men's varsity tennis team. Now for Hamilton, I work right now. I work at Deutsche Bank, so wrapping up my second year as an investment banking analyst here, covering media and telecom companies. And I also live in New York, so that's all.
Awesome. And Jafar, appreciate the persistence. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the benefit of your company here. We're so excited to have all of you here and really appreciate you spending time to join us. I'm going to start with a pretty straightforward question for our alumni. And again, I invite audience to share any questions that you might have for the Q&A feature. But for our alumni, if you could talk, you shared a little bit about what you're currently doing and your role, but if you could tell us a little bit more about your work. What does your day-to-day look like? Maybe we'll go in reverse order. So Jafar, and then Angie, and then RJ.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to start. And I'm sure everyone in this industry, however you ask what your day-to-day looks like, will answer the same way. And there is really no typical day. It really depends what kind of deal you're working on. So just like to give a general overview of what investment banking is, you basically help different corporations and companies in the US raise capital, access capital markets, whether through debt or equity, or whenever the company decides to either merge, acquire, or sell itself. So that's when we get tapped in and we help advise the companies in such a process. So, and this involves a lot of moving pieces. The way I like to think about it, you really are at the center of it. You're orchestrating the whole process because each sale, let's say, for example, involves a bunch of lawyers, a diligence process, and buyers. And for me, a lot of times it involves being in Excel all day, running companies' model and financials, trying to assess companies' performance in the future. How are they going to do with their current their capitalization, but also using a lot of PowerPoint to output all the findings that we have. That involves a lot of research to assess market trends, general overview of the company, investment highlights. So that's basically what my day-to-day looks like, and it can involve anything like as being in Excel or PowerPoint, but also administrative stuff, because at times when there are meetings with the management team, as the most junior person, it's on you to organize when the meeting is happening, make sure all the schedules align. So you really are doing a lot of things from administrative to very, very quantitative. That's, I would say, my day-to-day responsibilities.
Amazing. And Angie, I know you're beaming in from Mexico. You're on a Fulbright teaching fellowship. Tell us a little bit about your day-to-day.
Yeah, so it involves just being in the classroom basically the entire day, since I am teaching students just English and working with them to just develop their language abilities. But I'm actually working at a university here in Mexico. So it's really interesting, dealing with students who are very close in age to me. So that's been very interesting, but usually a typical day. So I'm usually working every single day of the week, and maybe from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. is when I'm just in different classrooms. And it's like students who are studying like things about petroleum. And so it's more like technical things, which also I have like no experience with any sort of technical things. So it's super interesting having students tell me these things and try to like ask me what some words are in English for technical terms in Spanish that I've like never heard in my entire life. But so a lot of things like that. And after I have my regular classes in the morning, then afterwards I run a conversation club with the other English teaching assistant who is also here with me. And it's just 2 hours of us just like maybe like making some activities for students where they use a lot of like the English language. And sometimes it's just students asking us like cultural things about the United States, like things they've always been curious about. Like sometimes some students like pull up some memes and they're like, is this true? Does this actually happen in the United States? Do you actually eat like some sort of candy that they might have seen or something? So it's just a lot of like, is this actually true questions a lot of times? So I've really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed having students just ask me certain questions and make me think about the United States in such a way where it's like, I've never had to question a lot of things because it's just like regular daily life to me. But for a lot of students, if I tell them something, they're like, oh, that's crazy. Like, we don't do that here in Mexico. Like, we've never heard of that. So it's literally just a lot of just interacting with students the entire day and just helping them with their English and also just like giving like cultural lessons as well. So it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed being able to like talk to students and just like talk in Spanish and in English all at once. It's really cool. So that's pretty much what my days look like.
That's super cool. I love the idea of like both verbally and culturally translating memes. I feel like
Yeah.
I don't always understand the memes that I see. So I'm still figuring out myself. RJ, over to you.
Yeah, sure. So just as a reminder in general PSA, my opinions about what I'm talking about at the hospital are my own, not the actual hospitals. But yeah, I would say my life is very intense right now. Memorial sees a lot of patients and they conduct a lot of research. I was given a really great opportunity right when I came to the hospital that I basically get to lead an entire protocol from start to pretty much finish. And I just got put on to 3 more of them. And so pretty much day to day, again, kind of like Jafar, it really just kind of varies. It depends on what walks through clinic that day, depends on what the doctor may want that day, how many operations he has, how many patients on my study are being seen that week in the OR. So it really just kind of depends. I have been in the OR as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, left as late as 6 or 7 p.m. And so it really just totally varies. I absolutely love it though, because I feel like I'm being challenged and being given that type of responsibility from start to finish of, putting a patient on the protocol to carrying their specimen to FedEx. It's been really rewarding to have my hand in every single aspect of it. And I've learned a ton and I've gotten a ton of really good experience and things that are like intangible past just publications and research. And I'm very thankful for it. I think especially the one protocol I'm looking at is looking for like a diagnostic technique, and another one's basically studying a new type of surgical technique. The surgical technique is really, really interesting. It's what I want to do. And so I get to put on paper scrubs and sit in the corner of the OR and take notes throughout the entire operation and get to look at the 4K screen as they're doing a scope on someone. And it's really just fascinating. And some of the days where I get a little cranky because I'm up 5 o'clock in the morning, I have to go in and I have to sit there and watch that. And I sit in the corner with the med student and the one of the other attendings usually, and we all just look at the screen and point out the anatomy. And it's been really cool to see that work in tandem with what I'm learning in just my research. And I just finished retaking my MCAT too. And so I was going through the anatomy of the human body and I was looking at the chest. I'm like, oh, that's the pericardium. Okay. And I could see it on the screen from someone. And that's been absolutely incredible. So yeah.
That's wild. You spoke a little bit, RJ, about it being challenging and how much you're learning. And my question for you, and we'll work our way back up the panel. Thinking about your time in Hamilton, how do you feel that your time in Hamilton prepared you for the work that you're currently doing?
I think most importantly, especially with my thesis and the elective research, if you come to Hamilton, I highly suggest you find a professor to almost be your mentor. I had one of Professor Chang. He's the I think he either is the current or the former um, lead in biochem department, but he was absolutely awesome. I met him my freshman spring and basically did research with him all throughout all 4 years, and I'm actually still in contact with him right now, texting him to try and work through my medical school personal statement. I'm applying this year, and so these are lasting connections that can help you a lot, both at Hamilton and afterwards. And the big thing with working with him was he kind of let me off the leash when I was doing research at Hamilton, and that gave me the room and the flexibility to kind of spread my wings and see what I liked and learn how to problem solve, most importantly, because especially working with patients in clinic at the hospital, I realized patients aren't variables and you can't control them as much as I may want to try to, because they are humans, and that's the beauty of it, is it's unpredictable. And so you have to learn ways to try and reduce errors or reduce the chance of something happening where a patient doesn't make it from start to finish. And that honestly just involves being a good scientist. And that's something that's, again, is an intangible I've learned at Hamilton through the research and through Professor Chang letting off the leash, doing my research. And, he'd let me go for a week or two. I'd run into a problem. I'd come back, tail between my legs, trying to figure out what went wrong and how do I fix it. And he'd, throw me a bone, give me a little hint, and I go back a week later, figure it out, come back with a new issue, and just rinse and repeat until I got it done. That type of problem solving and ingenuity has really helped me in the city working these own protocols.
Amazing. Anji, over to you.
Yes. So I think the main thing that I can think of is just like speaking abilities and being comfortable actually getting in front of like a room of people or an audience and just being able to give a presentation or just like bounce off ideas and things. That's like the main thing that I feel has prepared me to even be like a teaching assistant here in Mexico. Because at Hamilton, if I'm thinking about when I was like on the executive board of the La Vanguardia or at the DMC, so I always had to talk to people, and that's like consistently just like talking to people about an idea or giving a certain presentation. Also, like RJ mentioned, like the thesis, my thesis was all in Spanish because I studied Hispanic studies. So also having that made me feel a lot more comfortable being able to come to Mexico and just speak Spanish consistently. And I'm already a native Spanish speaker, but knowing that I was able to study Hispanic studies at Hamilton, write my thesis in Spanish, give my presentation in Spanish, and have Hispanic studies professors who really helped me through all of it just made me feel so much more comfortable and prepared once I did get here to Mexico and started like going into classrooms. And like there's times that students have also like come up to me and they're like, how are you so comfortable just like getting in front of the classroom and just like talking? Because like every single class I'm there for like an hour, so I'm talking for an hour and just coming up with activities and things. So students sometimes ask me like, you never seem nervous about this. How are you so good at this? And so a lot of it's because like at Hamilton, I've just done it for so long. For all those years, I was just consistently talking and getting up in front of an audience and things. So that's like the main thing for me that has helped me just like at like here in Fulbright with my Fulbright program, but like I can see it helping me like beyond this as well. So that's like the main thing I would say.
It's awesome. Jafar.
Yeah, for me, it was, it's just the fact, I guess, just the very core of liberal arts education, the fact that you have to try so many different things outside of your comfort zone, like certain subjects that you have absolutely, absolutely anything about, you don't know anything about it, but yet you have to learn throughout the semester and get you familiar with that. And first starting from scratch, being very uncomfortable. And Hamilton, I was not a very, the way my mind is set is just more quantitative and less of a writer, I would say, an artist. But Hamilton forces you to take writing intensive classes. And through that, just being adaptable in order to perform well at Hamilton, it teaches you how to become a better student, how to learn things quickly. And especially at my job, every time I cover a different company, within a different sector, this is the first thing I have to do is like go back to those skills, trying to gather as much information as possible and learn as quickly as possible. And then at the end also, it's the ability to communicate whatever you found and put it on the page. And again, here I've worked a lot with numbers, but at the end of the day, when it goes to a client, you can't just be showing page with just numbers, right? You need to create some sort of a story, a compelling story, show your assumptions well. And this is something I learned in my math classes at Hamilton. I don't think I've seen anywhere else where a math class can be a writing intensive class, but at Hamilton you do write proofs, and those can be a few pages long, and and that kind of really teaches you how to combine those quantitative and qualitative skills. And I find it very handy right now in my job, and it helps. It is a tremendous sport, like what I learned in Hamilton.
Yeah, I think each of you kind of touched upon communication, processing information and communicating it out, which I know is something that, even though I've been here 4 months, I'm learning, is something that we really pride ourselves on. And the interactions that I have with current students and see that the work that they're doing, their written work, their oral communication, it's great to see that that's something that continues to pay dividends for each of you post graduation. I'm gonna shift gears. I'm gonna toss a question to you, Melissa. If you can tell us a little bit more about how do you and your team support our students as they are coming in, trying to think about all the opportunities in front of them, and make their plans through and post college.
Sure. I do have to say that outside of meeting with students, which is my favorite thing, hearing from the alumni and remembering them as students and watching them grow and seeing what they're doing is definitely one of my favorite parts of my job. I think I mentioned before that I'm a dedicated career advisor. And so every student who comes to Hamilton, this is a model that's different than other schools. Every student is assigned a dedicated career advisor in August before they come to campus. And that advisor follows them through their 4 years and then beyond, as an alum as well. So what's unique about that is we get to know you right away. And we get to know, who you are, what you value, what you're interested in. That's at the core of career development. Before you even start thinking about what you might want to do for a job, it's who are you and how do you want to grow? What skills do you want to develop? What makes you tick? What are you passionate about? So your advisor will know that about you right away. And we encourage students to come in right in their fall semester. We're not the kind of school where we say, you know what, spring of your junior year, why don't you come in and we'll talk about an internship. We want you to come in right away. We want to get to know you. We have large scale programs where we bring like hundreds of first years together to talk about these things. What are you interested in? What do you want to do? What do you want to learn about? So we engage students right from the get-go. But overall with the Career Center, our goal is to help students find their future in an engagement model that's really transparent and brings clarity to the process, because it can be really overwhelming and you don't know where to start. So we want to make sure that you know all the steps that you can take and how you can reach your goals. As I mentioned, every student has a dedicated career advisor. Some students might meet with us once a semester, twice a semester. I have got some students who wanted to meet with me every week. And I'm like, let's do it. I'm here for you. We want students to make connections and do things. And I think you've heard that from the alums about the activities that they've been doing outside of the classroom. And that goes the same thing for their career development. So having conversations with alumni, doing volunteer work, doing a job shadow, doing a career-related experience over the summer, doing an internship, conducting research. That doing and that experiential piece is really important. And that's a big part of what we do, is we connect you to those opportunities. We have a really robust employer engagement program and summer internship funding. So we want to help you connect to employers, connect to alumni, and then say you want to do something. And by the way, this is after your first year. If you are from Iowa and you want to do an internship in New York City for the summer, you can apply for our summer internship funding, and we're going to do everything that we possibly can to make sure that you get there and that it's not a cost that you incur for doing it too. And I just want you to know too that everything that we do at the Career Center is for all students. So no matter what your major is, what your interests are, our one-on-one advising, our skill building workshops, our alumni programs, they're for all students, no matter where you are in the career development process and no matter what you're interested in. We offer something for just about everybody.
Melissa, you mentioned that everyone has a career advisor. When do people get their career advisors?
So we will send a postcard. So some of you might get a postcard with my picture on it in August. So before you come to campus, usually I think it's around mid-August, you get a postcard at home introducing you to your career advisor. So you'll know before you come to campus probably and who we are.
That's awesome. We've been talking a little bit about job preparation, internships and things, but we also know from our alums, RJs thinking about med school, we have a lot of students and in fact, a number of questions that are coming up around graduate school and graduate preparation. So Melissa, you talked a little bit about career prep. How does your team help support students interested in pursuing graduate education or professional education?
Sure. I do want to mention, and RJ probably knows, that there is a director of pre-health professions. And so that person is solely dedicated to helping students who are interested in going to medical school and into other medical professions. We do work with that person, but I wanted to mention that that's a really important piece of the work that we do too. So just like looking for a job, we're going to walk students through the graduate school process. I did have a stat I wanted to share that in 2021, almost 17% of that graduating class was pursuing graduate or professional school. So we're going to go through the exact same process that we would if someone was looking for a job when they're graduating. That process can start, junior year is pretty typical. But we're going to say, what is your goal? Why do you want to go to graduate school? What is the purpose of doing that? We're going to run through some really hard questions before we just jump into the graduate school process. And then we're going to help them develop strategies to think about. Students come to me every day and say, where should I go to graduate school? I'm not going to tell them the answer, but I'm going to give them all the tools that they can possibly have to make that decision, which might include talking to some alums, right? If someone's doing something you want to do, how did they get there? Was it going to graduate school? Or are we seeing some trends that people working in a particular profession went to graduate school at a certain time and to a particular school? That's something that we're going to look at. We've got a rubric that we walk through with students of how do you make that decision? There's so many different graduate programs. So what are some of the factors that you need to be taking into account? And then all the preparation, which of course is going to be hand in hand with the student's faculty. I think it was also RJ who was talking about getting recommendation letters from your faculty. They're going to be really important part of the graduate school process, but helping with, how do you even ask someone for a letter of recommendation? How do you write your essays? We will go through all of that with the students. And then the funnest part is that students will come back to us and say, I got all these offers. Can you help me think through the process? And I wanted to mention too, John, I understand that someone had a question about architecture school and architecture graduate school. And I'm really excited to share that one of the students I worked with all fall is an art student. And a art and math major, and she got into, must be over a dozen graduate schools, and she's going to go to Harvard for architecture next year. So that was really exciting to work with her through the process and see what her outcome is.
That's awesome. And I'm going to come back to a couple of the other things that you planted seeds to explore further. But you also talked a little bit about research, and RJ, you spoke about some of the research that you're currently doing. Anji, you talked about your thesis. And so for our alums, because we know that we've got a lot of prospective students, admitted students, people who are considering Hamilton, who are interested in research, interested in maybe internships. Can you tell us a little bit more about how did you find these opportunities, and were there particular experiences or lessons that you look back on and still feel like, oh gosh, that was amazing. So Jafar, we'll start with you and then work our way back up the panel.
Yeah, for sure. And well, the way I end up here at Deutsche Bank is through alumni connections, and because Deutsche Bank has had a very strong pipeline of Hamilton students, and partly because the investment bank is being run by Hamilton alumnus. So, and it definitely helps to establish that credibility of the institution and students and the caliber. So that's been certainly helpful. And what I've noticed throughout those years when I was applying and thinking about my career is that Hamilton alumni, they're actually one of the most responsive people and who think very dearly of that place. So whenever like I reached out to someone, they would get back to me. And this is, I would say, this is certainly not the same way across, all other schools. And here at DB, I work with a lot of other kids who are from very prestigious universities, like the Ivy League, like very close friend of mine from Northwestern, and I see the whole process as well, and I can tell you that it's definitely not the same response rate that you get at Hamilton. So that's one that's definitely helped me, and then and with students as well. Like when I first came to Hamilton, I had no clue what I wanted to do, but it was mostly like talking to more senior students, like juniors and seniors, and picking their brain and about like how do I think about about my career. And that's actually was one of the most influencing moments, and just like learning from them. And it never felt like it was you're competing with someone for a spot. It was no, how am I going to make you a better applicant, and you can do that to me as well. So it was more of a collaborative approach. So and through those, I guess, two pillars, I was able to send down in the process, which is notorious for having hundreds of thousands of applications and this type of job. And Hamilton definitely played a huge role in that.
Thanks, Anji.
Yeah, so mostly like talking about like research and things that I did during my time at Hamilton. When I think back on that, I think about how like sometimes like I just knew I wanted to do the research, but I knew that I actually didn't have like a specific idea of what I wanted to do. But I did know that research was interesting to me. It's what I wanted to do. And what was really helpful was just having like professors who would like sit down with me for like maybe like an hour sometimes, and we would just like think through the entire things that I was like interested in, like where I was, like environment, like where I'm like location, so we can like figure out like what specific research I can do. So since I did major in Hispanic studies and minor in education, a lot of times it was just me combining both of those things. And when I think it was my sophomore summer, I think, if I'm not wrong, but I got like the Levitt Center summer research grant to do research on like Latinx mothers and how they understand the special education system in the Bronx. And to me, that was like a very meaningful project because I'm from the Bronx, so I was able to use already my knowledge of where I'm from. And I was able to also use like my Spanish speaking abilities, also combine that with education. And it was just like a very meaningful and special project to me. And I wouldn't have been able to do any of that and even come up with a topic without my professor who was like helping me at the time, who was Professor Wong. And that was like just an important moment for me. And then I also did research another time again, and again, focusing on education. And now when I think about like alums as well, I think it was my freshman year where like during this time, I'm already thinking about like, I like education, but I don't know exactly where I want to go with there, what I want to do. But during my freshman year, I did end up meeting an alum who was working at one of the nonprofits that my school in high school was actually partnered with. So I was able to intern there, and I didn't have like an actual, like, it wasn't an actual internship role that was like announced on like a website or anything. It was just something that I was able to get from an alum who's just like, oh, like I know you because you're like at Hamilton, like maybe I can like sort of like mold this position for you. So that was something that was also like super helpful for me, also trying to figure out like, I like education, but I don't know where to go with it exactly. So stuff like that, like alums are like just super receptive and also just really good at responding back. And that was like also just an important thing for me, like having an alum say like, where there's no specific role here, like internship wise, but I will make one for you because you're a Hamilton, like you're a Hamilton student. So that to me was also super important. And it also made me realize that it's just so easy to reach out to alums, and they're always really willing and receptive to just helping students.
Yeah, I'm hearing kind of a theme about the alumni and the connections there. And I'm hearing the story tonight. I've heard the story, countless times since I've arrived in Hamilton. It's amazing how tight and supportive that network is. RJ, you're talking a little bit about research pieces, and that's something that you're interested in. Tell me a little bit about how Hamilton carved out opportunities, or how did you find research opportunities and things like that at Hamilton?
It's actually a really funny story how I got my original research. I was playing Pokemon Go on campus when I ran into my professor who was also playing Pokemon Go. He had 3 iPads out playing at once. And so we just started talking about it. And he was like, yeah, hey, I have this project I'm trying to work on and it keeps getting put on my back burner. Do you want to do it? I was like, sure. Okay. And he was like, okay, come to my lab tomorrow at 4. And that was it. It's really that simple to get research opportunities at Hamilton, as long as you're talking to the right people and seeking out the opportunities and being open to them. And it was not an easy project, and that's probably why I got put to the back burner. But again, it was really good for me to try and figure that out. And I eventually did solve it, but it took me like all of spring break, which I was on campus for because of lacrosse. And so once I figured that out, the Professor Chang was like, okay, well, here's another one. And then here's another one. And then it just kept giving me new things to try and solve. And that just kind of piled on and snowballed into my senior thesis, which I totally independently planned and executed myself with his guidance. And that research thesis alone, I think, helped get me my job, because it showed the hiring manager at Memorial that I'm capable of working independently and solving my own problems, which is a huge part of doing research, because things will come up that you will not expect and you will have to solve it on the spot. And that's been incredible for me. In terms of alumni connections for jobs, I didn't really lean on those for getting Memorial. I actually applied to a job here and got denied for the first one. And then the hiring manager saw my application. She forwarded me to a different department. And then that's how I ended up here. I've actually run into several Hamilton majors in the area. One works in does bench work, like lab bench work at Memorial. Another former alumni from Professor Chang's lab at Hamilton too, worked across the street at Rockefeller. And so I've actually ran into them once or twice. But in terms of moving to New York City, being from Orfield, Pennsylvania, it is completely different. And I live downtown on 8th Street. And so it is very, very different from what I'm used to at home. And having alumni connections in the city to just kind of have a little network to fall back on has been incredible, because I don't really feel as alone in here. And I have people who know their way around the city way better than I do. And I can reach out to them and be like, hey, how do you do your laundry? Am I paying too much to do $8 a wash? Okay. And, it goes beyond just research too. And I live with 2 Hamilton alumni right now, actually, in our apartment. And it provides things beyond just research and opportunities for jobs. It's like, this is, again, an intangible that I had through Hamilton, where I have some friends who graduated from different colleges and they all kind of scattered to the wind. We have a good pipeline to Boston, especially for medicine and for research. Pretty much all my pre-med friends are in Boston. And we, banking is very significant here. Like Jafar and New York City, and most of my friends here are in banking. And so you really will just kind of find the Hamilton family as you move on throughout life, not just on the Hill.
Yeah, and I appreciate you talking a little bit about different sectors and different industries that our alumni, end up being involved in. And Melissa, I may ask you to kind of talk about this a little bit more. I think sometimes folks hear open curriculum, they hear liberal arts. We've got 3 great examples here of alumni in different fields, different industries, different careers. From your side of things, Melissa, where do you see Hamilton alumni going?
Going everywhere. So as RJ and Jafar have brought up, I think that medicine, government, finance, those are some of the big ones that we know that students are actively going into and being successful. But remember, so my cohort is close to 700 students. And they're coming in at any time asking for anything. So I'm working with a student who's just got into graduate school for volcanology, which I thought was really, really cool. Students who are interested in pursuing careers in film post-grad, students who are interested in pursuing their interest in dance, if they've been dance majors, the nonprofit sector, consulting, creative writing, publishing. You know, what is so much fun about my job is that they can come in and talk about anything that they're interested in, and we're going to help them try to figure out how to navigate that. What's also great is that some people may know, like, this is what I want to do. Okay, I'm coming in my first year. I'm committed. Like, I haven't talked to Jafar before, but like maybe he was interested in investment banking from the get-go. And fine, let's go that way. But I work with a lot of students who are in their sophomore and junior year and are still trying to figure out what they want to do. So what I would say is, if you don't quite know what you want to do, is trying things out, doing research, doing an internship. And as you navigate that, that helps you learn about careers you didn't even know about, make connections, and then figure out what's right for you. But really, a Hamilton student can be interested in just about anything, which is really exciting.
One thing that I wanted to follow up on, and some of it is you had mentioned like internship funding, Melissa, or internship support, and I know that sometimes the job search can be expensive. You know, internships, travel, going to a place. Gosh, RJ, $8 for a load of laundry. It's expensive.
Robbery.
Seriously, I hope it's clean. I hope it's like proper
True.
clean when you get it back.
The dollar slices are now $1.52. It's absurd.
Oh gosh, man, inflation.
Mine is 20, and I don't have anything in my building, so I have to go to a laundromat. It's
Ouch.
like 30 plus.
Holy
And depending on the
smokes.
load, it could go all the way to like 30 plus.
So
Definitely miss Hamilton.
yeah, I mean, so costs are real, whether it's laundry
Yeah.
or pizza. And so I'm curious, maybe you can talk a little bit more about some of that internship support or that funding that you had mentioned.
Yeah, it's really a pride point for us in the Career Center. And as I mentioned before, I want to remind you that students who after their first year can apply for internship funding, as well as after their sophomore year and their junior year. We take into account inflation. The amount of money that we're giving to students. I can't give you a lump sum. Students submit an intent to apply. They tell us what they want to do. And then we look at, what are your expenses? Are you getting paid? How much are you getting paid? Are you not getting paid at all? Is this at home? John, we also give funding to students who are at home. Because if you're at home and you're commuting into the city, like I know students who live in Houston, that is a huge city. And so getting around and trying to commute from one place to another is expensive. So we're giving funding to students who are at home who have expenses. We're giving money to students who might be in another city. But we're giving several $1,000s. I also want to mention too that there's a supplemental funding process that we have. So if students apply for summer internship funding and they're on financial aid, they can also receive additional funding. It's really, really important to us that a student doesn't go into debt by having a summer experience. And if they can even walk away with a little bit of money in their pocket, then like, we have done our job.
Helps pay for those $1.50 pizzas and laundry. Gosh, but the resources, Melissa, are incredible.
They really are.
Amazing. I want to come back to our alums and thinking about the work that you're doing right now. You spoke a little bit about day to day, but tell us, what do you love about your work? Maybe we'll start with RJ and then Anji and then Jafar.
Since COVID happened, I haven't really been able to step foot in a hospital until now. And now I get to kind of see it, all of it, because as I mentioned, I do everything from consenting a patient to do the data management, to the device storage, the maintenance, the shipping, sitting in the OR and taking notes, the pulling out the disposables from the trash and counting the labels. I get to do a lot of it. And that reinforced that I want to do this. I kind of took coming to New York City as a trial by fire for myself, because when I got here, it was very different from what I had, growing up. And not only that, but I was at Memorial, which was intense. And I just finished taking my MCAT. So I was studying for my MCATs while working full time. And so I knew I was going to come out of this knowing I wanted to do this, or I would pivot and change. And here I am applying right now. So to me, it really just kind of confirmed that this is what I want to do, despite it being challenging. And honestly, I kind of enjoy the challenge now. It makes me feel like I'm reaching my full potential, and I like to be busy. And especially working with the patients at the hospital, I've really, really come to enjoy that. It's been such a great time having interaction with patients from all over the world that come to MSK. And even within the research team itself, one of my friends at the hospital, yeah, I call him my friend. He's a fellow. He's actually from Belgium, and we sit next to each other at work, and we chit chat about differences in Belgium versus New York City and what cities he's been to in the U.S. and how I perceive those differently and stuff like that. And it's very interesting. The doctor I work with is from Italy. Like it's really a melting pot of people in the hospital, and both in who I work with and who I meet. And so I may get kicked out as an update. Well, I'm gonna ignore that for now and hope it doesn't kick me out. But anyways, yeah, I really enjoy talking to the patients, and as much as it may be a grind, I weirdly enjoy that, because I'm just being thrown back into this, and I've missed it. And I felt like I really missed out on that for the year and a half that COVID was really, really kind of tearing through healthcare. And arguably it still is now, but I at least can get in that OR now.
Thanks, RJ. Anji.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I would say the most thing that like has made me like the most happy and that I've enjoyed the most about being here is being able to actually like work with students like one-on-one, like during my conversation club, which is like outside of classroom time. It's just students who just want to practice their English. And we just talk about so many different things. Like it's like sometimes like things that are more academic, like they're asking me about verbs and all these different things, but other times more just like life stuff. And they're like, how is this the United States? Like actually students asking me like some deep questions about like how I feel about like the state of like the United States and all these different things, like sometimes about political things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, such a heavy loaded question. But like these students just like also just care about where I come from, and they want to know like what my life is like in the United States. And so that's something that I've definitely loved, just being able to interact with students. And I mean, moving to a different country is very difficult. That has been a big challenge, like having to move to a different country and figure out how they like do so many different things. And there's just so many cultural things that are different and just all these different things as well. But at the same time, it's like been such a really good challenge because I feel like I am learning so much. And aside from that, just being able to like just interact with students and just like learn more about my own culture, since my family is from Mexico, but I've never been here for this amount of like time, because I've already have been here for 8 months. This is the most I've ever been here. So it's really cool as well to just like understand more about like cultural things. And kind of like RJ was saying, just like this experience also solidified just like my love for education. And maybe I don't want to go into teaching, but education is still something that I really love, and I definitely do want to like keep pursuing further. So it just like confirmed for me that education is definitely what I want to pursue and want to keep going with, whether it's like more of like higher education or actually working with students in New York City, maybe not like directly in a classroom, but in different ways as well. So now I know education is definitely what I love, and I'm glad this experience has shown me that as well.
It's awesome. Jafar.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely one of the most enjoyable moments was the steep learning curve and the people that I work with. And it's just, well, usually when you apply here, you come in like with your class. So it's usually, folks of the same age, but from different schools. And it's been really awesome to get to know other people from, all over the country as well, from some of the most like premier institutions and like incredibly smart and driven people. And you're in that environment, just learning from them and like from other more senior people. And, like this job does require you to work late hours, long hours. And like after around like 8, 9 p.m. it's just you and your friends. You spend like most of the time with your coworkers and you get to know them on a deeper level. And it's, after a certain hour a day, it just becomes like, just you and your friends. It feels like college again, like as if you're in the library doing work. But that's been definitely making it much more enjoyable than otherwise would have been. But also at the same time, like it is a lot of long hours, but the work we're doing is quite meaningful because you can see the reward at the end. And like you've been putting like all these hours throughout, like let's say a month or two, or even sometimes even longer, and then the culmination of this gets announced in Wall Street Journal, and one day we wake up at the first page of the headline of Wall Street Journal is the deal you were working on, and the whole world is basically speculating is it actually happening or not, and you're the one who knew all along the structure, who are the the parties there, and that's something I find fascinating, and this sort of the stuff that shaped the industry and create precedents for the future. So that's been definitely enjoying to be part of this, ecosystem for sure.
Thanks, Jafar. I got another question for everyone actually here. What advice, you've all talked about lessons that you've learned from other folks. What advice would you have for our admitted students right now, at this point where they are in their lives, decision that's in front of them? What advice do you have for them? Melissa, we'll start with you and then work our way down our alums.
Sure. So I use a phrase that's from another career professional who's known in my industry. And she talks about being a wise wanderer. And so I've never forgotten that phrase. I don't want you to be worried about what you're going to do when you graduate, what kind of a career you're going to have. I could tell you to take advantage of all the things that are going to be available to you, and you should do that. But just pay attention. You don't have to, your life is not one straight line. You're going to meander. You're going to go in one direction and then another, but pay attention. What do you see around you? What is interesting to you? What is not interesting? So as you're going about wandering, I just want you to be really, really mindful and thoughtful about what you're taking in and understand how that relates to who you are.
I feel, and your backdrop inspires me to wander too. Is that Root Glen?
Is the Root Glen, which is one of my very favorite places on campus.
It's amazing. Jafar, we'll come to you next. What advice do you have for our admitted students?
Definitely do not be afraid to try something new. Definitely reach out, put yourself in as many situations as possible where you can get to know other people that you would not otherwise know, or try a different subject, even though if that may in the shorter term require more hours or a little more effort, in the long run it's definitely going to pay off. So definitely soak in and try something new. Go study abroad, and definitely try to take advantage of everything that Hamilton offers.
Awesome. Anji?
Yeah, very similarly, I was thinking the exact same thing, like just like not being afraid of just like, if there's something you're interested, go for it, get out of your comfort zone. Because college is scary in general, and it's a very difficult transition, and it always will be. But I think it's really fun to be able to be in a space where you can actually just like try different things. Maybe if there's something you've always been interested in, but you've never had the opportunity to do it. I mean, college is the time to go for it. Not even like just like also clubs, like subjects, but also maybe like sports, anything that you're really interested in that you've never had the chance to develop. College is like the perfect time to do it. So definitely do not be afraid to go for it, and like just try different things, because you never know, maybe something that you try ends up being something you're super passionate about. Like, for example, I didn't know I was passionate about education until my sophomore year, when I randomly took a class and issues in education, and I realized that's something I really love. But before that, I would have never known if I hadn't just taken this one class just because I saw it on the catalog and I was like, this is interesting. Let me try something new. So do not be afraid and get out your comfort zone. It's going to be scary, but in the end, it's all going to be worth it. And it's going to be super fun along the way as well.
Love it. RJ?
Yeah, I would say kind of along the same lines of don't be afraid to go out and try. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Hamilton's a really great, nurturing, welcoming environment where if you fall down, someone will help you get up and brush yourself off, and you'll figure it out. And those 4 years on the hill are when you're supposed to do that. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make a mistake. Do it then, because you're going to be surrounded by resources then. And you could begin to take the tools and the advice from those around you have helped you get up to carry that forward in the future when you may have other difficult things come along that you need to pick yourself up from alone. And so Hamilton, I really attribute to helping give me the tools that I'm currently running with right now in the city. And I hope I will from now on too. So yeah, don't, as much as it is, don't be afraid to go out and try. Don't be shocked if you may fail, and then you have to get back up too. So, and Hamilton's a great place to learn how to do that.
Awesome, RJ. I'm gonna build upon that last question, and this will be our last question, or that last statement. And this will be our last question for tonight. And I feel like Sean at the end of Hot Ones, that wing show, where it's like, okay, like last question, like this camera, that camera, that camera. So for our alums, quickly remember, you were in this position, 4 or 5 years ago. Why did you choose Hamilton? RJ, then Anji, and then Jafar.
Now that I'm old and wise, I think I better understand why I picked Hamilton. I think it kind of went over my head when I kind of gravitated towards the campus, but I think I kind of knew I was going to stumble along and trip a lot. And I felt like Hamilton was a good spot to do that. I changed majors 4 times, I think. I came in as physics. I wanted to do engineering. I switched to astrobiology. I was going to make my own major. I switched to biology and ended up in biochemistry. And arguably, if there was a genetics major, I should have done that, because I took like 4 classes in genetics. And, despite all of that, I didn't miss a beat. Most other places, if I would have decided midway through sophomore year to become a pre-med, I would have had to take another year to graduate. And because Hamilton has an open curriculum where it allows you kind of stumble along and find your way, I was able to roll all the classes I took my freshman, sophomore year before I was officially a pre-med into my pre-med requirements and have them count, so I didn't miss a beat. And I really thank Hamilton for that, because it allowed me to have the room to find my way and find my path.
Awesome. Anji.
Yeah, so I would also say something like super similar, but in Hamilton, I knew it was going to be like a very close-knit community and a smaller school. And to me, that was like super important, because I did want to know that if I'm going into a classroom or if I'm going to any space, that I would get some individual attention. And I think that's something that I knew beforehand, but now that I'm done with like Hamilton and all these different things, I realized that's something that I definitely needed. And I'm so glad that I realized that when I before I started college, even if it's not something like I consciously very much knew, because at the end of the day, like a lot of like difficult things that I've like been through, or different things that like have just like challenged me in a lot of ways, it was those around me, like professors or just other people at like the HEOP office, since I was an HEOP student, who've like helped me get through all of those things. And without that support of people who just like sometimes looked at me and just knew something like wasn't right, or I was going through a tough time, or I just needed like extra support, not just academically, but also just emotionally, that was something that I really like appreciate about Hamilton now that I'm like out of it. And I'm just like, wow, like it's not so easy anymore. Just like, because at Hamilton, everybody was always there, like friends, professors, anybody, anything I needed, it was always just there. And I could reach out to anybody directly, whether in person or a message or anything. And now it's like, I can still do that, but obviously it's like, I'm not on campus anymore, and that's a little bit more difficult to do. But just having that like close-knit community is something that I knew that I needed, and has helped me so much, just being more like confident, just more comfortable with myself, and also just academically, but also in the way that I speak and in the way that I write. So it's just like changed so many things for me. And I knew that if I didn't have that close-knit community that I found at Hamilton, I probably would not have developed those things in the way that I did. So that was like one of the main reasons I knew that I wanted to attend Hamilton.
Thank you. And Jafar, bring it home.
For sure. For me, obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, I was coming from Uzbekistan, Central Asia. It's like over the the Atlantic Ocean, half the continent through, and it was a big decision to make, like, where do I go, and away from family. Obviously, it wouldn't be like 5-hour trip that your parents would drop you off in a Jeep with all your with all your belongings stuffed in like boxes. No, I had 2 suitcases. To this day, when I was moving to New York, it was just 2 suitcases. So I really wanted place where I could feel like home, just replicate that sense. And when I was lucky enough to visit Hamilton before actually applying and coming there, and one of the things that really struck me, it was just like the closeness of the community. I walked by Commons, you would see like all the students together, and like as students were grabbing food, like they would say hi to each other. Our tour guide, as he was giving us a tour, every 5 minutes someone would say hi to him and like congratulate him on birthday. That's like common trick that you pull on tour guides. But it just felt like everyone knew each other, and very close of a community. And obviously on other unsaid things, that like Hamilton is a great academic school that sets you up for anywhere you go. The employer would see Hamilton on your resume, and that signals immediately the quality of the education. But on top of that, it was certainly the closest to the community, and I never regretted that decision once. And yeah, I actually was on campus a few weeks ago for the tennis match, and I plan on coming back with my friends there as long as possible. So I definitely hold it very, very, very dearly. So that is my why.
Well, you're all welcome back. And for our admitted students, you are all most welcome to Hamilton. Our time, unfortunately, is up, but hopefully this is just the beginning of your relationship with Hamilton and with one another and these amazing alumni. And we spoke about the network, and that's one of the best things that we can offer about being a Hamiltonian. I want to thank our panelists for joining. Thank you, my colleague Melissa, for sharing some of your time as well. Also, my colleague Ben Rose behind the scenes, helping to make this possible. And I want to thank all of you, our admitted students and family and loved ones and supporters by their side, beaming in and tuning in for this. I hope that over the last hour, I hope that over the last month, we've given you a sense of how you can make Hamilton your own. And we're so excited to see what you'll make of your experience at Hamilton. So congratulations once again. We can't wait for you to join our community. Have a great night and go blue. Take care, everyone.